Hello everyone, my name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, welcome to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather daily to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. We have the very great pleasure today of being joined by Phillip E. Collins. Let me tell you, Phillip E. Collins, he has a very interesting background. He is a former director of marketing for George Lucas Industrial Light and Magic Commercial Division, co-founder of Fairbank Films with film director Ridley Scott, former advertising executive Young and Rubicon Advertising in New York City, co-founder of the Angels News Network, founder of the Modern Day Mystery School, Reiki Master, teacher, and certified Light Ascension Therapist, ordained as a minister, author of 10 metaphysical books, amongst many other accomplishments. But before starting our conversation with Phillip E. Collins, we want to remind you that Mindalia's mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness in the planet. You can help us by subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment down this video, or sharing with someone that you know that can benefit of the content that we're going to be talking here today. Also, while we are live streaming, we have an active chat screen you're going to be seeing on my side here or under the video. In case that you're following us from a smartphone, we invite you to communicate with us through the chat. Let's not delay this any further, and I have a great pleasure of introducing Phillip. Phillip, welcome to Mindalia. How are you? It is a great pleasure to have you.
It's wonderful being here in this English-speaking portion of your wonderful program to bring light and truth out into our world that's so needed at this time. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. So you have an amazing background. We were just talking about how would I say the word? It's like in Spanish we say polifacético. It's someone that can have many faces, not in the wrong term, but in the great term. Like you can accomplish as many things as you want to easily. And for what I see, that is your background. And until you decided to switch to this holistic or more spiritual part of your life. How was that the change? What brought you to wanting to explore this area?
Well, my father was an orphan in southern Alabama, and he went on to be an incredibly successful businessman and created an international empire in food processing. So that was my example, and I always thought that I would go into business. And so I went into law, studying law. I went into business administration. And so I started off wanting to work in advertising, thinking that was a good mix of creativity and business. And then later I became really interested. My soul started grappling with me and saying, there's something else you want to do. So I went to the film school in New York City at New York University, and Martin Scorsese was my teacher. I was very lucky. And then I learned about film production. And from there, I wanted to get involved in commercial film production, which was an extension of the advertising. And just through serendipity and working very hard, I began to make contacts that allowed me to start a company called Fairbanks Films, which was based in America, but it was funded in London and England. And we brought some of the most talented European and British filmmakers into the American market to renaissance and the American advertising industry. And these were very famous people such as Tony and Ridley Scott. And from there, I was given the opportunity from the George Lucas organization to say, hey, we want to get involved in the advertising industry too with all of this technology. So I had the privilege as director of marketing of Industrial Light and Magic commercials to travel all over the world and introduce the digital technology, which now is commonplace. And at the time, the studio had invented it. So it was my wonderful pleasure and job to fill an auditorium of 2,000 or 3,000 people several times a month and to teach them, well, this is the technology. This is how long it takes to do it. This is how much it costs to do it. And really transform visual communication. So it was a wonderful, wonderful privilege. But then something inside of me was saying there's something else. So I started studying acupuncture, homeopathic pharmacy, energetic healing, and then became a Reiki master teacher, became a doctor of acupuncture and homeopathic pharmacy, and was really in that teaching. I was being taught by people who connected with higher frequencies that just wasn't coming from a human mind. And through that teaching, and that was like a 5-year program to become a Reiki master teacher and a Light Ascension Therapist, I realized it was part of my soul plan, my purpose to be here to connect with these higher realms as well. And then we started the Modern Day Mystery School to teach what we were learning to other people. And that swung into the Angel News Network. And the news part of it is bringing information beyond the human mind into our dimension and our frequency. So it's been a combination of using the business sense and the yearning of the soul to express something else metaphysically. Does that help you?
It helps a lot, absolutely. It's super interesting. But let me ask you something. So in the end, you founded the Angels News Network, which is
Right.
you dedicate your life to that as of right now, and you have been channeling and writing books, which are amazing. And so, how long ago was it that you started the Angels News Network, and what was that event or that particular state in life that said, you know what, this is the next step, we need to do this?
Well, I was trained as a Reiki master teacher um, uh, by a gentleman who channeled the archangelic realm of Gabriel. And so I realized what this type of higher realm insight was within my teaching. And I realized it wasn't just coming from a human mind, and I really resonated with that. And then there was another gentleman within our organization named Jeff Asano who began channeling the Archangel Michael. And we were exchanging healing sessions one afternoon, and he went into trance and came in with Archangel Uriel, who said he had been trying to get a hold of me for many, many lifetimes to be a channel of this frequency. And he gave me like 50 days and some exercises to try to say, hey, this is your choice. This is your free will. So at the end of 50 days, I finished and I said, yes, I want to do this. And it just began spilling out of me. The first few books. Then we were led to create a sacred journey to Mount Shasta in Northern California, serving as proxies for humanity to help assist the ascension and elevation process of humanity. And at that time, began connecting with other frequencies, the inner earth civilizations, the ascended masterships, and that is reflected in the 9, 10, 11, 12 books that I've published. So it's been quite a journey.
It definitely sounds like a journey. And so, as of right now, what is the impact that the Angels Network has? Like, what exactly do you do? How can you get in contact with people and actually help them? Let's say understand, incorporate, or at least being open to the idea of these other realms or these other lifestyle that we could be having if we were more subtle in the way we think and vibrate.
Let's begin with the mission. I'm going to actually read it, the mission statement. Our mission is to bring the messages of the divine realm to the earth plane to contribute to mankind's spiritual growth and ascension by raising the consciousness resonant vibration of the world. So let's go back and take step by step. What does this mean? The mission of this is to connect with the divine realm being the archangelic realms, the angelic realms, the star realms, the inner earth civilizations, um, all of these higher frequencies that we learned really had to come back to creating this particular planet. So then it is to contribute to mankind's spiritual growth. The planet herself is within an ascension process of moving into a higher frequency of existence, of becoming a body of light, a star, if you will. So everything within and upon the body of this planet will choose to make this elevated ascension pathway or not through your free choice and will. So that's what the ascension process is. And that's achieved through raising our frequency, our vibration through our consciousness. So what we do is we write books, we give seminars, We've written one book. In fact, I have it right here called Life Mastery. Um, a guide for creating the life you want and the courage to live it. And this is all from Archangel Michael, and it's a step by step. And as a trained Light Ascension Therapist myself, these higher realms, I call them master psychotherapists. They really have the ability to go into our light bodies and really figure out what needs to shift and change in order to move into a higher frequency of existence. So we've written lots and lots and lots of books. I mean, just to give you an idea. And these are all available. We are currently now doing a podcast called Current Events Broadcasting. And I'm doing this with a colleague of mine named Joel Anastasi. We call him like a spiritual journalist. And I go into trance, and he picks up the front page of the New York Times and whatever's going on in the world, whether it will be governmentally, politically, religiously, whatever's going on, then we get a higher realm perspective. And most recently, we have been working with Saint Germain. And we just published a new book called The Refounding of America. How did these higher realms help create this country? What is the purpose of that? And what's standing in the way of that? And how can we heal the impediments of the mission of the country? So it's really a big deal. And we have a lot of fun. We try to do it in really simple English where people can understand it. It's also involved a lot with the personal process. What are the wounds within you? What caused the wounds? What are the ego defenses around those wounds? And how do we heal all that to go into this higher vibration to ascend with the planet? That's it in a nutshell.
Well, it is amazing. So for those, I always like to try and give an approach from the perspective of the people that is not involved in this type of knowledge, people that are not familiar with what we're talking about. So we
Right.
talk. I start, in fact, the very entrance of the video with raising the level of consciousness, and we're talking about a higher vibration. But for those that are not familiar with it, when we talk about spiritual growth, about higher vibration, about a new consciousness, so what is the benefit? What are we trying to achieve in if we get to that level of consciousness that we're trying to go to? What would be the immediate effects of it?
Well, it will really answer the question, who am I and why am I here? It will identify this divine aspect within yourself, that we are these divine beings having this human experience, actually living in the densest plane within the universal plane. This is the densest existence within the universal plane. And it is our destiny, it is our destination to free ourselves from that and to move up and to have the life that we say we want. That's the benefit. A life based upon love, of equality, harmony, and balance. A balance of the masculine and feminine energy. Having right and wrong be reflections of each other, dark and light reflections of each other, problem and solving reflections of each other, and really allowing us to be happy in being these divine beings, having this human experience, evolving even beyond that. It would be my answer. So we try to do it with the current events broadcasting, particularly. We try to do it with, okay, what are things that can really affect your life? What is politically? What is culturally? What is economically? What is personally happening to you that you can get a higher perspective beyond our emotions, beyond the human emotion, to elevate and free ourselves from that and get the assistance and help from these higher frequencies, which are here to support us, and just by simply asking for the help.
Okay, I understand that. So, we came here to this plane of existence, and this is the most dense of all the existences that we could be aware of. So, why are we here? Why did we embark in such a journey? Is there a purpose for the pain? Is there a purpose for the obstacles, for the things that we call challenges or problems?
This planet was seeded, originated by 12 different star systems, and they all came in to impact their purpose. But the one unified thing that they all had in helping create this particular planet was something called love. We call this planet the love aversity. and that we're all students within this loveversity, this universe, this university, to learn to master love, this highest frequency of creation. We chose to experience the density to free ourselves from it. We are students on this planet assisting this entire solar system, this entire galaxy, the universe, the multiverse, beyond the universe, assisting us all within this evolution to really embrace the divine beings that we really are. It's not a punishment what we're experiencing, the challenges that we have. And once we become conscious, that's where the consciousness for your television program and for us, what we have in common is once we awaken to that, then we see that this isn't a punishment. This is how we have chosen to learn so that we can permanently heal. Permanently heal is the key word, not just treat the symptom, but really get to the core base of why and how we chose to experience this, to ultimately free ourselves from it, to never have to learn this way again. And that is a gift to all of creation itself. Mhm. Here's the trick. How do we prevent pain from becoming long-term suffering? So as we experience what we're experiencing, so we can really understand what is causing us pain, which will allow us to make another decision or choice through our free choice and will, it prevents long-term suffering. Not every reality, not every world has freedom of choice and will. So we have this gift within ourselves. We have something called resonance, how we feel about something. We have something called discernment, how we think about something. And we call it at the Angel News Network the internal gyro system. And this is our guidepost. So if we listen to how we feel about it from our heart, if we listen to how we think about it through our discernment, and we put these two together, it'll say go straight ahead, turn left, turn right, right? And then that will lead you to the choices that you need to make. The other thing that's so missing in Western civilization is we've had a lot of repeated earth lives, and that wisdom gets stored within our heart DNA, and we can pull upon that for this eventual graduation from the love adversity of freeing ourselves from the density completely. Does that help?
Thank you for the challenges, and we're learning. What are the tools that we have? So in school, we have what would I say, like study guides. We have our partners, our peers that help us study. We go to class, and that's how we learn. We have books, we have resources. So in these love adversities, what are the resources that we have, or how do we grow in
Yeah.
resources, in the usage of resources?
All right, here it is. The relationship with self is the answer. Self being a reflection of all that there is. Myself, yourself. So everything is founded upon in being human, this relationship with self. And we develop wounds within that process. They call it the inner wounded child, right? You've probably heard that phrase. And we develop ego defenses, and there are actually five primary ego defenses, and we can do a show on that sometime if people are interested. And we see how that ego defenses surrounds the wound to allow us to function in being human. But it is the relationship with self that is our syllabus, that is our foundation of where to go forward. And we have focused on that tremendously at the Angel News Network. That's why I showed you the Life Mastery book. We're here to master life through mastering the relationship with self. And here's the real impediment right now in our humanity, the imbalance of the masculine and the feminine energies. That imbalance of these two energies is the cause of our duality, our separation, our confrontation that's really going on in our world, and our bias and our hatred. We have these two wonderful energies that are really are the receptive feminine energy, the assertive masculine energy, that are really here to pull the forces of creation together to allow us to move forward in this relationship with self. And we give the tools very vividly and simply in all the books that we have published. The hardest thing for humanity is really realize all this wisdom comes from something beyond the human mind. There's a cosmic mind out there. There's a universal mind out there that our actual human minds are tapping into or not tapping into. And this is the hardest thing for a lot of people in the West to absorb and assimilate. There's something beyond the human mind. When people negate the work that we do, it's because they cannot accept that things are coming from something other than the human mind. About 2 years ago, at Nova Southeast University here in South Florida, um, I had a professor who teaches PhD programs there at Nova asked me to go in, and they had this exhibition of this pre-Inca civilization, and it had no languages. And it had nothing written, right? But they had all this beautiful artwork, and they couldn't figure out what it was. And all these anthropologists from all over the world came to put this exhibit together. And I said, let me connect with this frequency. Let me have them explain to you who they are and why they're here. They went for it. And we did a show. We created a temple. We put all their artwork around, and I went into trance, and I connected with some priest from the civilization, and he explained every piece of artwork, and it blew them away. But what it taught, what it showed us was we can learn another way other than through the human mind. Wasn't
And
that fun?
it is super fun, and what I think is that whenever we are trying to analyze anything left by history, artifacts or whatever, in the end it's just a hypothesis. We can't really say we grab an object and we say, oh, this was used for this and this and that, but you're basing that hypothesis in the use you give to things now with your own necessities, and based on the framing of your social construct and not in whatever was happening there. You have really no idea. So that I love your technique. How did you do? So you touch the objects, you just feel the frequency. How do you get in contact with the essence of it?
Here's the deal. Whenever I told you about that channel from Archangel Uriel when it
Hmm.
started my whole channeling thing, you choose it as a part of your soul plan, your purpose to be here. It's something that's within you, whether you're conscious of it or not. And then once you become fully conscious that you have chosen to be this messenger, they choose you. And that's how it works. You choose and then you're chosen. And they come to you and they explain their missions. Like one of the fascinating things about Archangel Uriel, he gifted humanity with the technology that's allowing us to communicate right now. Cyberspace, the internet. And at the time, I'm working with George Lucas, right? And we're creating all these masterful visual effects and computer CGI and all this stuff, right? That's never been done before. And all of a sudden, I'm getting, locked into all of this metaphysical stuff and channeling from the other frequencies. And Archangel Uriel comes in. So I sit down with the people at George Lucas and I say, hey, let me tell you where this stuff is really coming from. Of course, some of them thought I was crazy. And then some of them said, there's something really interesting here. Cyberspace and the technology we have now that are allowing us to free ourselves from all the confines of communication to do a wonderful television program like what you're doing is a freedom gift from these frequencies to free us from the 3D, to free us from the emotions creating thoughts that create a reality. And I know we're going to get into this possibly a little later about how thoughts and emotions and create a reality. But that's the bottom line of all of this. They're really here to help us. Sometimes it's as simple as just asking for the help.
That sounds amazing. And well, you were involved in a production of ideas, fictional ideas that actually are have an underlinement of a lot of metaphysics principles. 'Cause if you see through, there's a lot of metaphysics there, and there's people communicating through another force that is not our physical force. So yes, definitely this conversation leads us to the thoughts. So the power of the thoughts, that cycle of thoughts, feeling, creation, reality, reality create a thought, the thought creates an emotion, and there we are in that interminable circle. How do we cut it? How do we start a new circle with a more positive embracement, with a more positive approach that could then turn it from a vicious cycle to a virtuous cycle?
I just want to go back. So there I was working with the guy that created Star Wars, right? And then I came to the synchronicity of how all of a sudden I'm connecting with frequencies that were very similar to the Star Wars. So I was in a meeting with them one time at a Skywalker Ranch, and I said, you know, guys, all this stuff is really real. All this stuff is really real. And we all know that great fiction, what makes it great is there's a lot of truth behind it. Thoughts. The most the most lacking thing in human thought is not really understanding what precedes the thought. We have an emotional body which we don't completely understand. If you ask most people, how are you? How are you feeling? Oh, I'm okay. Most people can't even identify what their primary emotions are, particularly the masculine energy, particularly guys. The ladies out there, you're good at this. You can tell us how you feel and really be very articulate about it. But we have an emotional body. It's down there in the solar plexus, right? That emotion creates a thought, that creates a word, that creates an action. So, what is that? That is us being the creator, creating all the time. There's our divinity, there's our connection. Long, long ago, when we weren't on this planet, many of us, and we were somewhere else in an advanced civilization, when we could make something create just by thinking about it. If we said apple, an apple appeared. It's actually still taking place, but it goes through these steps. I feel it. Created a thought from that feeling. I may have a word and then an action, and then that's my creation process. But the foundation of all of that is all of us being the creator, creating all the time and taking responsibility for that. Balancing the cosmic equation, responsibility equals consequence. When we can really take responsibility, knowing that we are the creator of everything, to learn what we need to learn, then we have a consequence of our liking, not one of our unliking. Get it? That's how powerful we are. Someone said, if God is all there is, you're it. Right?
I love it.
And
And you,
this prejudice, that's out there. I love someone. I saw in an interview on YouTube the other day. These two people were fighting, and this black woman turned to this white guy and said, "The same God created both of us. Wake up! We're just diversified versions of each other."
and so basically we have like our own reality. We are creating our own world. We are creating our own life. The lifestyle, the family we have, and the relationships, our work. But how about when we bring that from the individual to a collective situation? So we are all creating the society we are living right now. What is the purpose of the things we are seeing? Because we are seeing, well, I'm like a chronic optimistic. I'm an optimist by heart. I do feel that we are growing. I do see the growth. I see how only 2,000 years ago there were people going to the Coliseum to see each other kill each other just for fun, and it was good. Now we don't even have that, not that much.
Well, we have it on our football fields now.
But it's a lot less intense. But we are protecting. There are like societies that protect animal rights. There's still a lot of injustice, but at least we are taking a step towards protecting the weak, and that is different. I do believe that we're growing a
We are.
tiny bit. But the things that we see in society, the things that are horrible, horrendous, war, malnutrition, the disbalance of the energy of sustenance. We have countries that are starving, and we have countries like this one in which people can't even walk because of they're massively overweight. And so how does that happen? How do we come to create all together? How is that puzzle even ensemble?
By understanding what we all have in common rather than what divides us, by understanding fundamentally that we are diversified versions of each other. Let's take male and female. You are a beautiful female, but you are astrally male. I am a physically male. I am astrally female. A surgeon can make you a man. A surgeon can make me a woman. We're actually, and then we often flip genders and flip racial and religious experiences in between incarnational cycles. And if we can begin to wake up and remember that we have been all the things or could be all the things that we say we don't like, and we begin to realize that not liking it is some taught. Hatred is taught. There isn't an infant on this planet that is born hating. It's carefully taught. In that song in South Pacific, it's carefully taught. And if we begin to wake up to that and see that we have more things in common with one another, Marianne Williamson, who's running for president of the United States right now, is an incredible messenger. So is Mayor Pete. These are people in the past who would never be given an opportunity to run for president of the United States. And whether they're elected or not, they are giving such a vital force and voice to exactly what we're talking about on this program. We have our perspective, we have our opinions, they're part of our maturation process of the families that we choose to come into. And then we can grow and expand beyond those, which I have and you have. You know, you grew up in a Latin culture. You have so transcended that, and yet take the positive parts of that culture and make that a part of your life. But you have transcended the negative ones. And that's what we're here to do, is to really realize, see the commonality, to focus on what is we have in common rather than what we do not, and that we are diversified versions of the same source that created each and every one of us. Every time we have a negative feeling about someone, we can pull back and go, wait a minute here. This is just another version of me. And if I'm not liking what I'm seeing, going back to that relationship with self, what within myself do I need to work on to heal and take responsibility for? That'll change everything.
I think that it actually brings us back to the idea of a free will. Do we really have free will, and what is it? So probably it's not actually what we do, but as we were speaking earlier, like what we feel and how we feel about it. That's the only place where we actually can decide what we're gonna do. Get the society that brought you up and just pick up the things that you think are gonna build you up, and you we can also decide what we're gonna be tuned to. Am I gonna be tuned to what aspects of the, let's say, the Latin heritage? Okay, I'm gonna choose to tune to the happiness, to the aliveness, to the joy, to the resilience, to so many other things that are characteristics of Latin. But then I can decide what are the things that I want to tune off from that, right? And adapt to this,
Transcend,
and
to
adapt to the
transcend.
society that I'm doing, that I'm where I'm living right now, which is, for example, something as silly but as important as punctuality. With Latin people, we are not punctual. We, if there's a party at 4, we're gonna be there at 6:30. You decide you're going to incorporate what actually makes you a better person, and what helps, um what's the word for convivencia, like how to live more harmoniously with those that surround you. What do you think about that? How, are
Here's a
there?
here's a here's a phrase that helps.
Hmm.
We are really in the process of taking our beingness into our doingness. So it's a state of beingness through being conscious or not, transmuting, transitioning into a state of doingness. And that goes back to the emotion creating the thought. What am I feeling that's creating this thought? Is it hatred? Is it love? And then get in touch with what caused that emotion. Take responsibility for that. And that'll shift my thought, that'll shift my words, that'll shift my action, that'll shift my reality from negative to positive. Then you begin to understand that all these cultures were created so that we can get back to oneness through diversity. If there was only one, we wouldn't know the other. If you and I went into a room just filled with light, we wouldn't know the light was there. We need the darkness to know the light. We need the diversity to understand the unity. And then all of a sudden it starts linking and clicking and making sense. Now, we have to forgive ourselves when we forget this and being human, and we will. But then we can balance back to that and make new choices through our free choice and will, which is a tremendous gift. You cannot control what you did not create. This is the mistake of tyrants and dictators. And I hate to say it, our president of the United States at this time. You cannot control what you did not create. You didn't create this country. You didn't create the people within it. You may attempt to control them for a limited period of time, but every tyrant, every dictator, every bully ends at a certain period of time because we cannot control what we didn't create. Only the creator can do that. What we can control is ourselves, not someone else. That's impossible.
It is impossible. There is something that I really want to ask you about. It's something that I read in one of your books. You say that when we shift from the I consciousness to the we consciousness, is that the way you call it, or the me consciousness to the we consciousness? Right? You have it in one of your books. How do we do that?
By first of all being aware when we're really just focusing on ourself and our perspective and our opinion, and realizing that we are in a process of transitioning into a unified field of consciousness. That was the foundation of the United States of America, to be a beacon of diversified unity for all peoples of the world to come here. You cannot control the immigration of humanity. You can't build a wall or create a government that stops people from transversing this planet to whatever their needs may be. This has to take place when if we only see them as me. And here's the irony in this particular country, we're all immigrants. My mother's family were the only ones who were here. She was Native American. They were waving the Europeans in, you know, but the rest came in from somewhere else. So how dare we not move beyond the me of that into the we of it, and understanding that that's what makes a country like the United States of America stronger, is to embrace every single person who says in their soul plan, I need to be here. If it's to escape some negative regime or just to have another better life. That's what this country is all about. And we have to embrace all of our diversity. That's who we truly are. Me to we.
Okay, so this is a question that I have. I agree with you. I'm an immigrant. I couldn't say any different, but sometimes I feel that there is a very latent vibration with the people that needs to feel that they are in the defensive mode. So when you're in hate, you are in a defensive mode, and that, of course, must be originated in a feeling, in a probably in a vibration of need and lack, and being under a certain offense. Am I right? Is there a way that we could fix that vibrationally instead of doing it with an actual political action?
Yes, by being conscious of it, by actually knowing that this is what I'm feeling. And rather than acting on it, take a moment and examine, what am I actually feeling? And what thought is that creating? And do I want to make another choice about how I act or speak about the emotion creating the thought? And through your free choice and will. And if I act out rather than the respond out, so what's the difference between a reaction and a response? A reaction is, I don't give a crap what I say or do or how it affects you. A response does take into consideration how it affects you. And just take a moment. And even if you've transgressed somebody else, have an opportunity to go back and say, I'm sorry. I'm going to make another choice next time. That was a part of me that's unhealed that I'm working on. What a different world we would have then, right?
Yeah, but of course, we are not taught with emotional intelligence. We are not taught that saying, I'm sorry is even plausible. People in this culture, and I'm saying like the world culture, thinks that saying I'm sorry or admitting that you are wrong, you're showing that you're weak. It is changing, as I said. I'm an optimistic. How have you seen that change in the last years? Because you've
Yeah.
been in this path for longer, and do you see more people craving this type of lifestyle, this type of knowledge?
First of all, it's not a weakness.
I
It
know.
never is a weak it never is a weakness for someone to say, I'm sorry and I'm wrong about what I just did or said. In fact, if you've ever done it, and I'm sure most people have, you feel pretty good about yourself
it,
having done that
it is
and taken
liberating. It is
it's
liberating, but we like most people feel or think that the one that apologizes first is worse. I'm talking about common knowledge. What is around? Not the way I feel. I do know
yeah.
it is liberating. It's scary, but it's liberating and puts you in a way better position than before. But it's not what most people think, and
Yeah.
even less in politics.
Well, we're not trying to be most people, are we? We're really trying to create a pathway on your television program, which is commendable. And I'm delighted that the Angel News Network can be an English speaking part of that. It's so wonderful that we can have this conversation. We're trying to create within this love diversity a new pathway of choices. Do you like the world that the old choices have given us? I don't think many of us do. So we're really talking about creating a new pathway that we will like, okay, and the tools that we need in order to do that. It's been the masculine energy often subjugating the feminine energy that's held to war, that's held to holding the feminine energy down, that's had racial biases or religious biases. It's sad to say that in the name of God, we have killed more people than any other vehicle on this planet. That's a sad thing, isn't it? We need to move beyond that. And the exciting thing is, we now have candidates for President of the United States. We now have more feminine, diversified versions in our House of Representatives than we have ever had. It is growing, it is improving, it is better than it's ever been. But there is always room for growth and expansion until we transcend this densest reality within the universal plane.
And what do we need? Like, do you know more or less what's the critical mass so we can actually see the change in the? Is it something that we are gonna be able to see with our eyes, or we're just live without
You're in the
knowing?
you're in the middle of it now. It's an ing thing in English. It is progressing. It is happening. The most major clearing and cleansing of this nation right now is taking place right now. This country will be better and stronger and more vital and have more women in our governments than ever before. How dare we keep our women out of it? You might know about some of these amazing women in West Africa. There had just been generations of revelation, famine, and war. The women took over. They said to the guys, no sex, no food, we're taking over, started running the governments. Guess what happened? No war. No famine. So everything settled down, and the guys come in and say, oh, now we'll take over the government again. And the women go, oh, no, not yet. Maybe never. Things are balanced. We need this balance of the masculine and feminine energy. Remember, we said earlier, that's the bias of all of our difficulties. Bring that in. Half of our government should be women. Half of our Supreme Court justices, half of our Senate, half of our House of Representatives, half of our governors. And once we have that balance, one will check the other. That's the way creation made it.
I love it. It's a matter of synergy. It's not a matter of taking over. It's not a matter of obtaining control from your
Balance.
feminine as a masculine. I think it's feminine being a woman. We don't need to turn into men to be powerful. We can be powerful by still being women. and that's a dream I have. I dream of a women liberating women. Other than that, we're still having the old story about damsel in distress. I think that women in the world are the ones that are going to be liberating women, because it's not in the
It,
interest of men, actually. Well, it is at the end, but they don't see it yet.
oh, some do. Some do. You might be surprised. Remember, the majority of the population on this planet is women. Okay. It's just a matter of the women of the world waking up, becoming conscious, and saying, enough is enough. You do not have equality, not even in this country. Is it better? Yes. But as far as I'm concerned, it's not good enough. And we need the women. And I'm talking about beyond gender and reproduction. Okay. I'm talking about the energy and the perspective. When you have a body that can create life and bring it out into the world, and you have that power of creation within you, that is a beautiful perspective. You're not going to send that child off to war to kill somebody else without a darn good reason, are you? Guys, not so much. So all of this is taking place. Remember, this is the massive clearing and cleansing. This planet started in December 2012, the final 2,000-year cycle of the ascension process of this planet moving into a body of a light, becoming a star, if you will. If you look up in the night sky and just imagine each one of those stars was once a planet that went through an ascension process, not unlike what we're going through, and they're just waiting for us to become that light. Thus, everything within and upon the body of this planet will become our light bodies as well. That's what ascension is about. And we're talking about the tools to make that possible with grace and ease, and pain not moving into suffering.
What happens with the ones that are reluctant to growth?
Remember the freedom of choice and will. They don't have to do it, but they will do it eventually within eternity. So they'll be given the opportunity to go to other planets, to other solar systems, to other galaxies, and take whatever timeline they need, but they will ascend. There is no place else for them to go. It's up to them when and how they do it. It's up to all of us when and how we do it.
I do believe in that, but I want your approach as well. Like,
I want the belief to become knowing.
we
A
are.
belief,
Mhm.
a belief can shift and change. But when the belief becomes a knowing, can't you feel the knowing within me? I don't believe this. I know this because of all that has been exposed to me and all that I've been able to share with the world. Continue your thought, please.
Well, it was worth it, the intervention. But so we are all getting there, regardless of the time. So how can we learn to be compassionate towards those that are not in that? Because we, even though we're talking about this, we're still babies, we're sprouts, we're tiny, and there's a lot of people that are way more advanced than what we are. So, and they are compassionate towards us. How can we learn to be compassionate and not judgy of the people that are probably not even interested, probably not even aware? They are not in the knowing, they are not in the believing, they are not in the guessing. They are just it's something that doesn't even exist, this type of knowledge. Learn how to be compassionate. I think that's something that we lack a lot, especially in the spiritual world.
In order to have compassion for someone that doesn't agree with you or understand where you're at, you have to accept them right where they are. I'm not here to change anyone's opinion of anything. If you don't resonate and discern with what's being discussed here, throw it out the proverbial window. But if you do, then understand who you are, why you're here. What is your truth? What are your needs within that truth? What are your boundaries? Truth, needs, and boundaries. And how do you put all those together? You might not like what someone is saying and doing, okay? You can accept where they are, but if they're in the process of abusing you, you can set a boundary and define your needs and then not allow that abuse to take place. There's the difference. That's the self-empowered self. Again, self being a reflection of all that there is.
And can you believe that we have been talking for almost an hour?
I don't believe it, I know it.
are ready to wrap up, but there are two things that I don't want to leave without asking you. The first one is, where can we find you? Where can our audience find Phillip Elton Collins? And how can we get in touch with the Angels News Network?
TheAngelNewsNetwork.com, PhillipEltonCollins.com, and you can find us on Facebook. You can find us in every podcast platform distribution that there is. And you can find us here now.
Yay! Thank you. I love it. And
I,
so let's ask you to please leave our audience with something from your heart. If you wanted, those words that are resonating with you today, that you feel that is worth that we pass them through.
the most important thing, beloved souls, choosing to be human, is to know who you are, is to know why you're here, and how to bring your talents and gifts out into the world. The world would be incomplete without each and every one of us, or we wouldn't be here. You're welcome.
Thank you again for your intervention, for dedicating your time, your ideas, for allowing us to be a channel for your knowledge. And to our audience, of course, thank you for being here. Thank you for liking, for subscribing, not only this channel, but our Mindalia Televisión channel in Spanish and Mindalia Televisão in Portuguese. We are broadcasting information on a daily basis. Our only mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness in the planet. We love in spreading a message of consciousness, a message of the fact that we can be better, that we can grow, that there is no limit. And although, regardless of where we are, there's still room for improvement. We are sending you a very big hug, and from our heart to yours. Until next time.
Hasta luego.